een soort afgevoel. Maar dat is nou helemaal een leeg karkas van een insect wat lang dood is. Hè? Die ziet er ook uit alsof hij af is. Er zit niks meer in.
Maar je kan hier wel hele mooie typografie op aanbrengen, is dat het nog te huur is. Deze wordt op 090909 geopend. Dan hebben ze natuurlijk gewoon een kek project nodig. Even zakken huurhoeder even bellen. Is het regelt?
Jack? Jack, you? We can start?
I don't know what it does to be here, but it helps me to understand Arabic typeforms a bit more when I walk into these streets with little shops where you can find always the Latin alphabet combined with the Arabic. And then you can see what's actually going on, how it looks, how it feels. And that makes sense, makes totally sense. You can't pick that up from a book. Many times you see the Latin word came first and then the Arabic is adjusted to that. It is again a reason to make a lettering in which it is one gesture and they are both as valuable and they are both doing an attempt to come into one sculpture.
We will see in which way it can create or generate this space and which scale. That's something we still have to explore, but we really would like it to be a spatial thing in itself. So the type is complete when it unfolds in this three-dimensionality.
So our basic element are long strips.
Okay.
And from these long strips, everything is going to come out. And they're only going to exist as letters when they're 3D.
There's no example, there's no such a typeface yet in the world, which can only exist in the 3 dimension.
I'm the youngest of 3 brothers, and when they got to school when they were 6, 7 years old and started to actually make letters to make fish understandable or the word tree, I was really completely amazed by this simple science, these simple drawings. I really liked that. I thought it was magic. That is language, the transparency of science, and I think I always was completely overwhelmed by the possibility of making another drawing which said fish. If you look at the Japanese characters or the Chinese characters or the Arabic type or the Indian versions or Thai type, they're all beautiful because they're so graphic. And we are addicted to form and rhythm, like, you know, the black and white and the dance in it.
Doesn't that look awkward if the horizontals are thicker than the verticals?
No, on the opposite. Especially if you look at the sketches of the Kufi, because of the way the stroke is, like the slant of the stroke, which makes that the vertical is thicker than the horizontal. Like this is like still not the final shape, if you want to make it straight or not, if you want where we want angles, where we want it to be a curve. So, you know, it unifies the whole field, even of the Arabic itself. I couldn't tell like if the Latin looks more like crisp or if the Arabic looks more flowy. This is just different feel than this one. And how is this kind of balanced with what we have on the Latin? The K should have a loop here, you know. Does it bring it closer to the Kufi?
Part of the outcome of what we do for typographic matchmaking is giving the manual of what we did and how you could give it a follow-up yourself. In a way, you give the grid, a way you explain your grid.
The whole idea of the grid is that a grid is not a design, it is just a kind of going from A to B. So if you want to make this curve, because the whole thing about this form you make now, why it is okay, that because it's meeting all these points. We can connect things, we can make a whole fence of it, we can go around corners, we can make it into a building.
The essence of what we try to do is not to behave as graphic designers so much ourselves, not to be the artist of this project, but to give a designing opportunity to others.
I'm not saying it just yet.
I know, it's
The S, it starts with the S.
S. Space. Spaced out. Okay.
I can show you another example which I think is interesting. In that context, which is this poster here. T-E-G-E-N T-O-N-E-N.
G.
G. It's a lowercase g.
In black.
Yeah. This is the solid shape of a T.
Yeah, and
but this is the rest space of an E.
But what's confusing is that you put this extension, that extension, which actually don't exist.
No, but this is the E.
Oh, yes, okay.
This is a T, this is an O, this is an N. But here, as a white shape,
it's an E, yeah.
This makes this the E.
Right.
So that's sort of the play between things that are there and things that are not there.
But I think this is where we're trying to go. This is purely about text. There's no body language, there's no facial expressions, there's nothing. Which is the same way I send you a text message or I send you an email and you misinterpret the tone of it. So it doesn't carry a sense of humor, it doesn't carry any facial expressions.
It depends on the choice of typeface, for instance.
You can put smiley faces on it or something.
No, you can have like a funny typeface and you can have a serious typeface. Now I think it's interesting. Can we make a really illegible typeface in the unit, glyph unit, and can we make a acceptable experimental typeface within which is legible?
There needs to be some level of accessibility.
Yeah,
and it's just like fine-tuning that knob of like how legible and how illegible it is. It's not Helvetica, but it's not a bunch of circles and squares on a white piece of paper.
You want to get a bigger nail?
Don't you want to make more? Like 8 or... Ah, okay. Don't you want to make more holes in it?
Yeah.
B?
Suppose.
Here we have har. These are 2 letters. The ha.
What does har mean?
Har. Spice.
An angry dog.
Har. No. Also, it looks like a ship.
Yeah, it looks like a ship.
Yeah.
It's like sails.
Harf.
It's not necessarily a restriction in the form. I think if you need to take 2 or 3, then that's the way it is. So I was looking at ways of drawing fonts that describe the shape somehow. So you do get the separate strokes, or there might be some different structuring to it, or some way of giving a little bit of depth to it. We seem to be on a path aimed at reducing and reducing and reducing. So maybe we'll have nothing at the end of the project.
You can see how 3D it is. Totally different from neon or a normal letterpress letter forms which is thickened. Every letter form in itself is totally free to go where it wants to go, as long as the series as a total has one kind of attitude.
Oh, that's like this.
Mm-hmm. We steal bendings from each other. So when she likes some gesture in a ribbon from me, and she can use it by looking at it from another angle, then she will use that, and the other way around. A letter form doesn't need to be continuously the same letter form throughout the whole letter alphabet. So an E or an A can change per word actually without losing control. When you compare the M, my M with your whatever it is, then you can see this, there's a similarity.
Let's see that.
That's a similar sign. So.
Can we take the M?
Once we have a 3D cut drawing, we can execute it in the real world and make it repetitive, make it into a project that can be used by other people. It can be used either in a very small format, very small dimensions, as well as very big. So from a jewel to a building.